and welcome to Supercharged, episode 203. I'm Adam Dossers.
And I'm Tommy Houghton.
And today we're talking about being addicted to your phone.
Yeah.
Because, well, we've had two events. We've had Google I.O., I don't remember how long ago that was, but like a month, was it a month ago?
A month or so, yeah.
Yeah. And then the Apple event was this week on Monday. I think they did it on Monday, which was unusual.
Yeah.
I guess maybe it's not unusual for the WWDC because it's usually on a Tuesday.
Mm-hmm.
I think they have like a Wednesday, October one, but like Tuesday was always the Apple day, and then I think they kind of go off of it once in a while. But maybe WWDC has always been on Monday, and every year I'm like, oh, it was on a Monday this year. Weird. Anyway, there's not really a lot to talk about that they announced. I think
it was pretty quiet.
Yeah, it was just not. It wasn't. I mean, there are new features in Mac OS and iOS and the watch. There's some sort of Dick Tracy-esque walkie-talkie function on the watch. That's what everyone's at least calling it for the time being. Watch OS is up to 5 already, which is kind of weird to think about.
Do you own one?
I do, yeah.
Do you wear it and do you like it?
Yeah, I didn't like it a lot when I got it. I found it really kind of frustrating and stupid, and I don't like the screen turning off. I think they need to figure out a way to do what, a lot of Android Wear watches have figured out and keep the screen on all the time by like turning it black and white, lowering the backlight or something. Because I mean, like, even if the backlight's on a tiny bit, I don't know. I feel like we have better battery technologies coming out now. This shouldn't be a problem in the next few years. So I'd like to see that change. But the battery life is really excessive, I would say, at this point. Like they could probably keep the screen on longer. I should probably just change the setting to keep it on longer.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, I got it to kind of like monitor my heart because my heart rate was elevated for a while, and I wanted to make sure I wasn't like exercising myself into a heart attack or something.
Yeah.
And I think it was medicine related, but it's really hard to tell. It seems to have gone down a lot lately. So it's probably not as much of an issue, but I wanted I had wanted to replace mine because I hit my hand on the wall, didn't hit the watch, but somehow the screen fell off of it.
Wow. And
this was like right when I started to like the Apple Watch for the first time.
Mm-hmm.
It was one of the original ones, and then I'm like, oh, okay, I'm gonna start wearing this now. It's nice to have it to remind me when to turn when I'm driving. Sometimes I will answer a phone call on it. I like it for getting messages. I mean, one of the things that people have brought up a lot this week under the main topic that I think has been, that we're talking about, but also that I think a lot of people have been talking about the most since there's not really a lot of news in the release, is that Apple's adding features to iOS to make it less distracting for you, that you can not use your phone in an addictive sort of way.
Android's doing the same thing.
Yes, and so that it's like almost a response to. It feels like a response to the all this Facebook shit, even though it's not really.
I mean, I think they're getting smart to get out in front of it,
mm-hmm.
Because I mean, the thing that I have to keep reminding people is that Google and Apple, even though they're kind of rivals in the smartphone space, are completely different companies. Where
mm-hmm. Google
is ad-based and Apple is not. And Apple loves to remind people that they don't have any need to share your data because they don't sell it. They don't make money off of it. Their big goal is to keep it in-house and not sell it to anyone. So obviously they have motives to keep you engaged in the Apple ecosystem and to make more money, but their money is built from selling you products, overpriced products that look very pretty and are supposed to function in a clean, smooth way. But
for the most part, I don't understand the iPhone 10 though. Like, I don't know why they keep going back to that like super shiny metal crap
mm-hmm.
and
the glass, right?
Well, I didn't mind the glass designs that they've had in the past, but like the what is it called? Like a chamfered edge? Is that?
Oh, yes.
Is that what it is?
Yeah.
But that whole like it's so, I just find it incredibly gaudy, and everyone's like, oh, it's so pretty. And like, it's fine with a case on,
mm-hmm,
but
mm-hmm.
I don't get like there's too much shine. It's not the simplistic design that Apple talks about being important.
I mean, there's always Apple always likes to go back to the aesthetics thing and claim that there was one point that they actually went back to redesign a product because the chips inside were not optimized and didn't look pretty enough, which is so stupid. But I would buy it that Apple does that kind of thing.
Yeah, it's I mean, the thing that drives me nuts about them is I like the design. I think I think the new MacBooks are beautiful. I think like in terms of their hardware on the computer side of things, I think generally speaking, those are fantastic. They're very well designed. They usually don't sacrifice too much in the way of power. But I mean, like, I don't know. Sometimes I can't tell if it's like I just don't want to use a laptop because I find laptops too slow. I just feel like in 2011, 12, I didn't feel that way. I was like getting the MacBook Air instead because I'm like, I don't need more power than that. This can do all of the things that I want to do. It can even do, video editing, not doing it in 4K, but otherwise it's pretty, gets the job done for the most part. And I feel like that has changed for whatever reason. I don't know if there's just more bloat in the system or I'm, asking more of it than I used to, which is probably true to a degree, but also, we're in 2018, so I should be able to ask it a little bit more than I used to.
Yeah.
I never expect to get great battery life out of them because I have lots of things running in the background all the time. So I feel like the performance has degraded on laptops, but it's hard to really judge whether that's actually the case or whatever. But I'm tired of them taking away features on stuff just to get something thinner.
I think that's the one thing that bugged me with Android was wireless charging, which I think wireless charging is going in the direction of the future I want it to be in.
Mm-hmm. It's funny because they got rid of it and Apple added it.
Yeah, I know, it's ridiculous. And the reason they claimed they got rid of it was pricing, was that it would make the phone too thick and would add like a small price. And that they claim their answer, like to when people say, why did you get rid of wireless charging? Their response was really stupid. It's answering the question without answering the question or dodging it by saying, well, quick charge charges your phone very quickly. And it's, well, I didn't talk about quick charge. I talked about wireless charging. Well, it's not as efficient as quick charge. So it's clear they're doubling down on quick charge, but...
Yeah, what's weird is they could have just said, well, we thought quick charge would be more convenient for the consumer, or the majority of consumers, because they'd rather charge their phones faster than and plug in a cable than have it wirelessly charged would take hours.
And that's the thing, that's
a reasonable argument.
It is to a degree, but so a couple points with wireless charging is with like a phone, you have to have multiple contact points, so they have to have probably 2, maybe 4 contact points for the charging. So I had the Nexus 6, which is wireless charging enabled. I believe it had 3 to 4 contact points in the back. That way it wouldn't be specifically tied to one spot. You could put the phone wherever and it would charge at that location. And so I got a cradle and a couple wireless charging accessories. And so the Nexus 5 and the 6 both were wireless charging enabled. And then I think the 5X and 6P, one of the reasons I didn't get one of those was because they got rid of wireless charging. And then, of course, the Pixels weren't. And I'm hoping with Pixel 3 they bring it back. One of the challenges, too, is if you have a metal back, it obfuscates it. So you have to have a glass back or parts of the panel that are glass to allow for the wireless charging.
Oh, yeah, that's why. Okay, so the iPhone 10 must have a glass
back. It
back
does,
then.
yeah.
Yeah, I can't remember what the back of it looked like. Yeah, it's really just the edge that bothers me the most. I usually don't mind the glass backs. Usually look kind of cool if they're done right. They're not really practical. But you're not. If you're not putting a case on your phone at this time in your life, then especially if you own an iPhone 10.
Yeah, it's silly that you don't have a case.
Yeah, like if you're so concerned about it looking beautiful, then design your own case to make sure you have that aesthetic. But there's not an excuse to be stupid, because if you can't replicate enough style on your own by making a choice of a good case or designing a good case, then you shouldn't be talking about like, oh, I want it to look beautiful.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm hopeful with Pixel 3, which there have been some leaks of, that they will announce wireless charging back again. Mm-hmm. Because the thing is, investing in wireless charging, eventually wireless quick charging is going to come up, and people always prefer not having to plug something in. Because with my 6 and 5, with my Nexuses, I didn't think I plugged those things in for months. Because I had a charging cradle next to me for my bed, and then I had one at work that I could put it on. So I would just rest my phone down, and it was great. And it didn't get too hot. It was amazing. Yeah. And the problem is these, even with Type-C, which I love Type-C more than USB, micro USB, or...
Yeah. I didn't think I would care that much, but it's like micro USB can be a pain in the ass to plug in
completely.
sometimes. And it's it's a silly thing to complain about to a degree. I mean, I think it's important to note it when you're developing technology because
Yes.
it's like it's relevant to the experience of a product, but obviously it's a first world problem. That you're just like, oh, I can't get my micro USB cable in at night because I can't see it.
There's a real concern though that you can actually damage the prongs.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's inconvenient. You could ruin a product that way. Like it should be changed. It's just like it's one of those things that I feel like every time I complain about something like that, I'm like, well, there are worse things to worry about in the world.
There are, but yeah, it's the thing they should strive for is making design better and more intuitive. And I think
USB Type-C is great.
Yeah, I'm mad that the Surface laptop I got does not have a Type-C adapter.
Yeah, that's kind of I guess it's a lot more expensive to implement that, but I don't think it's so much that they couldn't do it.
I mean, the biggest indicator of how expensive it is if Nintendo uses it, because Nintendo is notoriously cheap. Their big goal.
That's a very good point.
At E3 a couple of years ago, I got to eavesdrop on a conversation with.
I had to use it though.
Yeah, I got to eavesdrop on a conversation with a Nintendo developer and someone from NASA, and there was a guy from NASA displaying some kind of cool moon simulator thing, and the Nintendo guy's like, "We would love to put this, find some way to integrate this in something on the Switch," and he didn't say Switch. He's like on a new piece of hardware. And he was like, how did Nintendo develop? And this guy was probably like a sales rep for Nintendo. And he's like, honestly, we take the cheapest possible parts. He's like, it's not about the being first or being the leader in tech or hardware. It's finding the cheapest possible parts to make a clever product.
Yeah, and I think sometimes that hurts them, but I've always liked that about them.
Yeah, I mean, the idea that the Wii was, not anything special in terms of hardware, but the use of technology was really clever.
Mm-hmm. Because even if they falter, it's always still about the gaming.
Yeah,
Whereas with all the other systems, it's technology first, and then they're like, okay, what can we do with this? Like, you should figure out what you want to do or what's available to you, and then what you're going to do with it, and that's the product.
I think that's the big thing is why you'll always see a couple things when you look at systems and games. Like with the Xbox 360, when it first came out, you had really shitty games that weren't the best at maximizing use of the hardware. It took developers upwards of 10 years to get their heads around the Xbox 360. Because when you look at like Grand Theft Auto 5, that ran on a 360. Granted, it took 3 discs and some installs, but that worked on a 360. They figured out how to design to the maximum capabilities of that piece of hardware. When you look at the NES and SNES and all those original systems, they were able to do some pretty innovative stuff with those games from the beginning. And it took them, I think, a lot less because they knew how to use the hardware. Nintendo is really smart when it comes to using, kind of like being really scrappy, using the hardware in really innovative ways.
Yeah, I feel like
from the beginning, without having that steep learning curve that most systems have.
We talked about this probably like a year ago, but I about if we could, if you could make a perfect set of products by combining some of these companies.
Mm-hmm.
And what would happen if, Apple and Google took the best of their stuff? I feel like Apple could also, and maybe Nintendo, they could use each other a little bit to find that middle ground between cheaper in Apple's case and more expensive in Nintendo's case, but like what are the best parts, period?
I think that'd be interesting to see. I think the one challenge is that some of the inherent difficulty is that Apple's very much, even though they claim to be an Irish company, because of inversion.
Yeah, I was like, wait, what?
Yeah, because
the
they're
taxes.
Yeah. I think they're repatriating some of their money. So yeah, fuck companies that like to do that, and that's pretty much every one of them.
The thing, I don't like that they lie about it.
Oh yeah,
or that they. Well, no, I would say it's a pretty straight up lie.
It's not. I wouldn't say it's lying because they can't lie in disclosure forms, but they avoid it. They dodge it. They don't publicly disclose it.
Tim Cook was asked in the Senate. He wasn't like, I don't know. It's a lie to me when you're saying that we're just, we're doing what's completely fine.
Yeah,
I don't remember what he said.
It's a lie of omission or complicity. I mean, it's not exactly him giving a falsehood, but it's him dodging the issue and not taking ownership of it.
Yeah, they were basically asking him, why are you, trying to funnel money through Ireland and avoid taxes? And he says, I'm not avoiding taxes, which I consider to be a lie because, you could put it in a context where it's like, oh, yeah, I'm using the system as it was designed to be used, but it's a manipulation of the system.
Yes,
it wasn't
exactly
designed that way. You're cheating, and not no one, but a lot of, no company And not every company on the planet could do that.
Yeah, exactly. You have enough lawyers to be able to help you find the legal loopholes and then figure out how to do it. But
yeah, and it's not even a legal loophole. They just convinced the government to change it.
Yeah.
And to which there was a backlash.
Well, the loophole is you have enough money to convince someone to change it to your favor.
Yeah.
So Apple's very much an American company, and Nintendo's very much a Japanese company through and through. And so I think there are a lot of issues, especially with how they design and build. But I would be curious, and Nintendo's always been one of the companies that the question is, are they ever going to be bought or acquired by someone? Because you look at Apple, they're their own behemoth. You look at, the mobile game stuff, the hardware they make is all in-house.
Yeah, it's going to take a long time to destroy Apple.
Yeah,
It's too much money.
Apple's staying the same. You look at Xbox, and that's in the Microsoft family, and that's not going anywhere. You look at PlayStation, that's in Sony. That's not going anywhere. So Nintendo's
for a while that was up for debate though.
It was, and now they're doing fine. And so
yeah, the PS4 really turned it around. It's funny to me that the PS3 was the system where they were struggling the most during, because that was the PS3 for me was always seemed like really solid, and it's probably because I come into the gaming systems like 2 years after they come out, but
it became a better system. But the problem was it got just derided because it was expensive. It was $600. That infamous E3 conference where Kyle Hirai, who's now the head of Sony, who was head of entertainment that oversaw PlayStation, now he's the head of the whole company. But the infamous one where it's just very tone deaf, where they announced the PS3, it's like $599 and that was huge for a console being $600.
I defended them though. I mean, I don't know if I would defend the way Sony did it because I don't remember how they did it.
I mean, you can look at the conference and see it was a pretty bad conference. Yeah. But the biggest goal is, again, they hid the fact that they were trying to push Blu-ray because Blu-ray was a Sony invention.
Yeah, but
and it was part of the arms race to. It was very clear that
should have won.
They did win.
Yeah,
it was because of the PS3.
But it should have won anyway. It was like if it had gone to HD DVD, that would have been worse, I think. And
there was one thing I liked about HD DVD, which was that it was region free, versus the Bluray, which has three.
We've had this conversation like 5 times.
So Blu-ray has 3 regions, which reduces it from DVDs, which was 12, which is ridiculous. So I'm glad it reduces it, but HD DVD was
the region shit. Stupid.
It's so stupid, but at least it's 3 instead of 12, and HDTV was region free. Anyway, the fact that Sony had had skin in the game with that, they made it very clear politically that's why they put that in the PS3, and it raised the price. And they lost money even though it was $600. They lost money on every unit sold for the first couple of years because the hardware is still so expensive.
Yeah, but it was one of those things. It's like you want it's kind of funny that was the higher cost thing that they invented was the high cost. But I guess R&D, they're probably trying to pay themselves back.
And not just R&D, but also the hardware itself. Like the pieces, because the lasers were the only ones ordering them, but it worked because their goal was over time it would reduce the cost because more companies would invest in the products, more people would buy them, people would buy the physical media. The only thing, and it worked because physical media is starting to die pretty heavily, but they got in the market early enough for Blu-ray to dominate, and they made money off that. So it was smart for them, I think. But without the PS3's whole having to have the Blu-ray thing and being seen as a bit of a, plus their marketing strategy was pretty piss poor. They were trying to be seen as a home media center. They'd botched a lot of the marketing, but they learned a lot of mistakes, and they made up for it with the PS4, which was a great launch.
Yeah, and then Microsoft thought, oh yeah, we'll be the media center this time.
Well, yeah, Microsoft really fucked up with the Xbox One, and I own an Xbox One. I love the system now because they've made up for all their mistakes.
Yeah, I think it's really nice. So I'm like, it felt like when we got one, I mean, I got it for Richard for Christmas or his birthday or something, I don't remember. So it's not mine, and I haven't really played it that much, but I've seen him use it, and I think we played a couple games on it. I think we played Cuphead on it.
Yeah.
Is Cuphead one of theirs?
Yeah.
I can never remember which system it's on. But that, it's nice. I was like, I don't know why people hated this. It seems like a marketing problem.
I think it's because they made it better. I will give Microsoft credit. It took Sony a whole...
It was like the Windows Vista of the Xbox.
Yeah. Well, I would say no. I would say it took Sony a whole generation to make up amends. With my Xbox, they were able to turn around in a year by changing the actual way the system worked. There was an always-on requirement. There was all these things that they were seeming that games are locked to your console that people were really unhappy with.
This was on Xbox?
Xbox One. It was when they announced it. And there was the years announced. Microsoft's conference was first, and then Sony made fun of them. By even doing, because they were having this really complicated thing where games are locked to your account, but you could share them with family, and it got really complicated.
Yeah, that's such a Microsoft thing to do too. But,
yeah,
I mean that's not terribly dissimilar from Windows Vista. And I say that as I liked Windows Vista.
I had no problem with it. It had a lot of issues with the drivers and stuff that they were rushing out. But
yeah, I mean, I didn't have to use it except at work, so that was probably, it had something to do with it. I mean, I thought 7 was great. That was like, I liked Windows when 7 was out, and I haven't really appreciated it since then. I don't like the changes they've made.
I don't mind 10. I think there's some good things.
Oh yeah,
with
no,
it.
10's an improvement. 8
Yeah.
was just like, I couldn't
Yeah, they were good to skip 9.
That stupid start menu.
Yeah, no,
I mean, that was the one thing
I know.
I've always loved about Windows, and they like, don't mess that up.
And now that they've got it back, I like it now.
I
Again,
just want a HoloLens. That's the version of Windows I want, and someday I'm gonna have $3,000.
just
to
jack
blow.
it in your brain, and it will like have it, or the contact lenses, the HoloLens contact lenses.
I mean,
That
at
would be
this
nice.
point, I'm kind of holding out for version 2 or for like
Yeah,
one of
you
the
know
other
it's coming.
systems, but
Yeah.
I really like it. There are very few products. I have a lot of the VR stuff. Probably just pawn that and switch. But I mean, like did we ever even talk about the Oculus Go when I got it?
We did
Okay, I feel like that one got pushed. Like everything.
deliberately so because it's not good.
Yeah, I mean it's not terrible though. Like, oh, have you used it now?
Yeah, it's not very good.
Yeah, I was let down by it, but
I think it's the general consensus is that we were expecting more.
yeah, I was expecting quite a bit more, and also it would have been nice if they like indicated that the headphone port hole is a headphone port, because it doesn't say that like their information on the device is terrible. They don't tell you anything about it in the description other than like kind of what you can expect to do with it.
Mm-hmm.
The sign up process I didn't care for because it makes you have it hold your hand. It's like, I know I have VR, I don't need this. I think it's really great that you did this, but I should be able to skip it.
Yeah.
And but the little handheld controller I think is great. And I think it's really uncomfortable to put the headset on, which is weird because there have been 4 years. I have one. The Ideal Lens is a great example of a headset that has a very comfortable.
Yeah, at this point,
thing.
the ergonomics should be really simple.
Yeah, it's like a paper clip for your head on it. But it's fantastic. It's super comfortable. I mean, like this is like a premium headset. That's I think they still make them. I don't know where you can get them. I just saw it at a conference and I was like, hey, can we get one of these for testing? Because I was writing about this stuff. And he's like, yeah, we'll just send you one. I'm like, okay. I've never been able to do anything with it because other than like watch a movie. I mean, like I would use it for demoing, like 360 videos or whatever, not putting Avatar in there.
Yeah.
Not really, well, I guess that is 3D, so maybe that would make sense, but I don't know why that came to mind. But yeah, I mean, they're pretty much, I mean, even the Vive is more comfortable and that thing's heavy as shit.
Yeah, it is.
So, that bothers me about it a lot. Like, I don't know how they managed to make it so uncomfortable. And it's the only one that messes up my hair. Like, the other ones don't flatten my hair.
I don't have that issue.
Yeah, I like the older I get, the more I kind of wish like I did go bald because I probably wouldn't, but it's because it's like I don't know, I think I have this thing with, it's not an issue of being bald, it's more of like my family will just teases everyone when they start losing their hair, and I'm like, I don't want that, like leave me alone.
That's kind.
Yeah, they all do it, and then they think like, oh yeah, we gotta haze that person in, and I don't want to be teased about anything. Just like be nice to me and shut up.
Yeah.
But anyway, it's I don't know, I find hair annoying.
Hair is annoying.
Just everywhere.
We
should just be hairless creatures.
I actually would not mind that if I was completely hairless. I would appreciate that.
I just think it would be easier. I mean, it won't muffle your farts as much, but like I can. That's something that I can. We're talking about butt hair, everybody. But I would accept that.
Would that hair really muffle farts?
Yeah, I actually looked into this very thoroughly.
But like, it can't be a massive percentage.
I'll.
I mean, it's got to. You have to have like a pretty thick forest to have that muffle.
Well, yeah, I mean, you have to have a decent amount. Like, if you just have like a sparse amount of straight
peach fuzz,
hair,
yeah,
then it's not going to do it. Like, it has to be a little bit curly. You could
have like an entangled forest, a trench forest.
I mean, but if you think about how sound works, it will disrupt it quite a bit because it's not about like it's not even so much about the density, but having like this kind of jumble that the air is going to get split up during. So a lot of the sound will get cut out. I'll put this to you. Go get your butt waxed, and then you tell me. I've done it. We did it for Awkward.
And you noticed a difference?
Oh yeah. I mean, like I would honestly, like, if I didn't have to drive to, I think Sherman Oaks is where there's this place called Pink Cheeks. We interviewed them.
Yes.
She invented anal bleaching,
and she also, Bora. I think Bruno. She was on Bruno too.
Oh, she was.
Yeah, she's on Bruno.
Oh, I gotta go back and look at that.
I think he got his asshole bleached too.
We upset her because we said something about, after we had gone, we had said something that bothered her a little bit.
On the podcast?
Yeah, I can't remember what it was. I mean, I apologized to her because it wasn't intentional. I think we had like downplayed the benefits of something a little bit, but that wasn't what was meant by which she heard it differently than what we had meant.
Yeah, Bruno was waxed and yes.
Yeah, but Cindy Pink Cheeks, I feel like I'm painting her as...
I assume that is not her real name.
You know what? I don't know what her real name is.
From the Pink Chink family. I just see someone in like the 1920s on the,
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure that's not. But
oh, of the Connecticut Pink Cheeks?
Yeah, I just don't. I don't know. That's how I know her, Cindy Pink Cheeks. Anyway, she's delightful. She does a fantastic job. It hurts a lot less than you would think. I took a Tylenol before I went in because I was scared. But
no, ass is not hurt. I have had the variety of my body parts lasered and done different things too, and that part,
really,
that part is not very painful.
Why lasered?
I got a Groupon thing, and I was like, I hate body hair. Let's see what happens.
Yeah, I've
had every part of my body lasered, and some of them are more painful than others. Some are more surprisingly painful.
It's not even. Well, I want to ask about that. But for you, is it an aesthetic thing for you, or is it a comfort thing for you? Because
both.
It used to be, I used to care about the aesthetic. I kind of have developed a position on my body that it's like, I like to, look nice and generally be clean if I can remember. I mean, I don't, for everyone else's sake, I try to not smell.
Yeah, no, that's kind.
But if I'm stuck at home, I won't care. Unless I start to feel greasy, and then I hate that. I hate feeling greasy. But it used to be more of an aesthetic thing when I was quite young. When you're gay, it's body hair was the devil at one point. So no one wanted body hair, and then you felt like no one would want to have sex with you ever if you had body hair, and that was when I was growing body hair as a teenager. So I was a little traumatized by that. I imagine whatever women go through has got to be 10,000 times worse.
Oh, completely. And that's, especially Middle Eastern or women that have ethnic descents that are more hairy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I come from Jews, so I actually have pretty light body hair considering. I know my Aunt Debbie, her armpit hair is apparently a forest. She's told me how difficult it is to get it out.
Yeah, it's tough. I think...
I don't have to deal with that.
Yeah, no, the good thing for me was with lasering, I mean, I've done both electrolysis and laser, and there are very strong differences between the two, and pros and cons for each. With lasering, it's not permanent at all. It can reduce the effect of it, but you've got to keep going back. And
I thought it's permanent, eventually, if you have enough of them done, that'll eventually the body will give up on it.
It'll reduce the growth time and stuff, but it's something where you always have to eventually maintain. Yeah, but the time between having to go expensive. Back, it's not as expensive as it used to be. It's going down in price.
Isn't it? I don't. Actually, I don't know. I was gonna say it's $1,000, but I don't know. No,
I mean it depends on the body part and the area.
What hurt the most?
Believe it or well, this is the way it works: is that it targets the pigment of the hair follicle, so it only attacks dark things. So if you have darker skin, it's really hard for them to do laser on you. They're cool lasers and cool effects that will work, but traditional laser that basically burns and kills the hair follicle, it has to be light skin, dark hair. And I was a perfect candidate. So if you're albino and have blonde or whitish hair, and even if you have light skin, it won't work. You have to have.
So interesting.
So
have you ever seen it in slow motion get lasered though? It's creepy looking.
Yeah, it's weird. And it smells like burning skin or burning hair, because that's what it's doing. So I went through and got different parts. And so I was told that it's the places that have the densest collection of hair / the strongest nerve endings will hurt the most.
Is an armpit one of those?
Armpit felt fine.
Really?
Yeah.
That's the one that seems like the most painful.
No, armpit I felt nothing. The neck, the beard line. The neck fucking hurt to the point where
That I believe. Yeah, the closer you get to the head too.
Well, it wasn't even
it's harder to block pain there.
It wasn't even the pain, like because there's so much hair like along the traditional male beard line that basically imagine like if every hair follicle has one pain unit, every other area is not as dense. So you can do anywhere along the body except that's the spot that has the most collection and pain points. So what I had to do was I figured out a method to do it, to withstand it, was I would get an ice pack and hold it against and numb one area, and then we would just swap back and forth.
Why can't they just do lidocaine?
They can, but it's just expensive, and it didn't make sense. I wouldn't want to pay extra.
It's like $6.
So I
mean, I wouldn't enjoy that. It's like, it feels super weird.
Yeah, I did, the feeling of it's not fun. So I did that. I did the ice thing, and that worked. Yeah. But then surprisingly,
it probably feels a little burny anyway. So
yeah, surprisingly, the crotch, the groin, the ass, that doesn't feel anything. It was.
I wouldn't say it feels nothing.
No, I've done it in pretty high intensity, and I didn't feel much. I think it depends on the person. The other area.
I mean, I felt the butt waxing. It wasn't like pleasant.
Well, no, the butt waxing is different.
Yeah.
Because waxing is actually ripping it out versus burning it. And so it's different
the laser
sensations.
Isn't as
yeah, basically, if you feel a flick, you feel a
Why do you have your neck lasered though?
Because I got a Groupon that had a bunch of different areas, and I'm like, well, I'm gonna get the bang for my buck. I think I got like
so you're like, oh, I have to have everything done.
Well, it's like I got a Groupon for like you can pick 6 areas, and then I'm like, well, I picked 5, and I'm like, well, I got a 6th one. Why not use the beard light? If I can reduce how much I have to shave,
yeah,
why not?
Yeah, no, I get that.
So
I always thought I never wanna have facial hair. So I should just get it removed. Then I don't have to shave because I hate shaving.
Yeah,
but
I felt the same way. And I don't mind shaving.
Older, that changed.
Yeah, I don't mind having facial hair like up here, but the neckline is where I'm like I would never. If I can never have facial hair, that'd be fine.
I just find it uncomfortable. Like I don't even care what my body looks like that much anymore. I can. It's like a vehicle as far as I'm concerned. I don't think of it as myself, and so I just find body hair really annoying. We really got on this tangent for a long time, though.
We did. One last thing. The other area that's really painful are the nipples and the pectoral region. That area is so sensitive with nerve endings that it fucking hurts.
Well, here's a PSA. I didn't want when I was a kid and I was afraid of having chest hair, because of aforementioned reasons.
Did you shave off a nipple?
I didn't shave off a nipple, but my dad has back hair, and he had gotten some Nair and left it in my bathroom for some reason.
Oh dear, that has to have burned.
Put it on the nipples. Yeah, it's like.
Oh my god.
It's like developing pomegranate seeds, because it gets into the pores and then just like explodes something in there. I don't know not
Holy
the pores, but
shit.
Where the milk comes out of.
Yes. Oh my god, my nipples ache just at that thought.
Yeah, it's
the pain.
Experiencing it is a completely different. Like you just can't know.
No. Yeah, that's yikes.
It's like needles. It's like needles going all the way in, but like really, I don't know how to describe it like a normal person. I'm having synesthesia here, but like just a very bright.
I'm feeling it in my teeth and my body now. Yikes.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Don't near your nipples. It says that on the bottle, but you know.
Yeah, it says don't near your crotch or your ass either, which I did when I was a kid because I was stupid.
I would say just don't do it.
Yeah, nair's a bad idea in general.
Yeah, I mean, I try to be okay with the body hair. I would totally get my butt waxed again though. Because it just makes pooping much easier.
At some point, if I ever have the luxury just to have my whole body electrolyzed, I'll just do that.
Yeah,
it'll make it so much easier. It'll take forever and be a bitch in a hurt, but electrolysis works. Electrolysis is permanent. But
it is?
Yeah, it's I
thought it was the other way around.
Nope. Electrolysis is permanent. It's the only FDA approved treatment for permanent hair removal.
But that takes many times, and
it doesn't take
right?
I would say it takes 2 to 3 times per hair. But it reduces it makes it smaller, and it reduces the growth time, and I've had that, and I loved it.
I wonder how many men have this conversation these days.
There are a lot. Like the person I went to had probably 70% men.
Oh, yeah, but I mean, do they talk about
Probably
it?
Not, no.
I think it's so interesting how that's happened and how that's changed, because in the 90s, it'd be like, if you're like, talked about wanting to get hair removed.
I think it's the whole metrosexual queer eye thing helped make it, I mean, my sisters were kind enough. When I was a kid, I had really brushy eyebrows, And they told me to get my eyebrows waxed. So I started going when I was in high school, and I appreciate them because I had a giant, nasty, bushy unibrow. And thankfully, I got it waxed for years. And I was like, this is really expensive. There's got to be a better way. And so I looked into electrolysis, and I'm like, yeah, if I invest in this over time, I won't have to get them waxed. And so I did that for a couple years, and it worked. So I like it. I'd endorse electrolysis. It takes time because it's literally you got to pull out the hair follicle, or not pull. You got to shock it, and what you're doing is you're killing the blood supply to it. So you're not killing the follicle. Well, you kill it by encouraging the veins and arteries that are near it to go away, go supply blood to something else, and over time it stops. But I loved it. It takes time and it's expensive. So yay. Yeah. So speaking of taking time and being expensive, phone addiction.
Yeah, we should get to that. I mean, we're only a half hour in, so that's pretty good for us. Yeah,
I think so. So I'm on Android developer preview for Android Type P.
Yeah, and what is Google doing to break phone addiction?
So it's not integrated into it yet. It says it's coming soon, but they announced at Google I/O, and that's coming with the developer preview too. And it's clear that they're trying to go in a centralized direction, which is decrease distractions and find a way to make a phone more of a tool again rather than a thing you're just staring at endlessly. Now, there are interesting interviews that people who are at the companies that we're talking about, Apple and Google, who are in the ethics department, which is, whatever.
Yeah, they should have. There are Google ethicists that the ones that started those positions basically have since left and are very concerned.
Yes, they should have. Those people should have been part of the process from the beginning, but that ship has already sailed and they're swimming after the boat.
To be fair, though, this is it's maybe not. It seems easy to predict in retrospect, but finding these phones to become as addictive as they have become, I think it would be a hard thing to predict, and it's very easy to convince yourself when developing a product that it's we want it to be successful, but we don't know how well it's going to do. We're taking our best shot at this, and
I think that's
hard.
It is hard. I think there's a point though that they did know and they did nothing about it when they should have. And so,
I think that is much more accurate.
So what's interesting is that it's very clear with Android P, they're trying to. There's not a lot of giant features that are changed, but it's very clear they're moving towards a direction that is making it easy to make the phone work better for you. And so there are a lot of features involving notifications, because that's a big thing that distracts people. When you sit down and something beeps, rings, goes off.
Well, that's one of the reasons why I like the watch.
Yeah, it's the ability to figure out how to type notifications together. So they're already threaded and bundled together. That's actually a feature that Apple has pulled in for iOS 11, or 12, is the bundling notifications together. They let you also respond in line with notifications, and it's much more interactive with the ability to respond, dismiss, without opening the app itself, because they discover when you open the whole app, it distracts you and it potentially pulls you into that app as opposed to just doing one quick thing and leaving it alone. So they make it much more responsive to deal with apps and notifications and things from just the window or notification panel. They also have the ability where if you start ignoring certain things over and over again, it will help you get rid of that notification. If there's something that persistently pops up and you don't engage with it, it's like, hey, we can get rid of that for you. So dismissing kind of false alarms or things you don't care about. They're also fine-tuning the Do Not Disturb mode to be really precise, where you can turn off even phone calls. So really being able to tune out certain things that distract you.
Yeah, I would really like to have the feature of being able to dial down specifically what I want.
Yes, and the fine-grained controls just got added. So the developer preview one...
I guess you technically, in terms of turning off phone calls and text messages and stuff, it does work with the iPhone. The problem is it doesn't sync up with everything else. So you have, if you want to block someone, mute someone, set up those settings, it happens on one device, and then you have to remember to do it on all the other ones, and then sometimes... if you have settings that turn it off after a certain time, then they go back off, and it's like, it would be nice too if you could block a series of numbers, like if you're getting from a call center that's just a bunch of spam calls.
That'd be nice, yeah.
And then you can say, I want to block, this for anything with the first 6 numbers in the sequence. Oh, nope.
Yeah, Siri thought you were talking about her.
She sure did. I'm surprised Alexa, who I left on... Oh, sorry, everybody. If you... I just turned it off, so I was like, oh, it's safe. But, sorry if I turned anybody else on there. She's the Echo. I'm surprised she didn't wake up at any point, because that thing thinks it hears its name all the time. So I think it's good that they're adding those fine-grained controls. Android, I think, needed more of this stuff than iOS did in that department.
Agreed. Yeah, no, there's a lot of, so looking at things, there's a lot of things you can do that allow you to kind of see what's open, what's not, how do you manage. I mean, even something as simple as, like, do you let the notification light pulse? Do you let certain things turn on? And they're adding a mode where when you have the phone face down, it turns off certain things. You can even set up gestures and movements where it disables things. Additionally, they're going to be adding a dashboard, which is very similar to what Apple's doing, which is kind of the driver, is kind of telling you how you spend your time on screen, what apps are open. And it's not trying to actively manage your life, but it's trying to make you aware of how much time you spend, in the hopes that, just like putting calories on a menu, you're like, oh yeah, I guess I do spend a lot of time on Facebook, or maybe I shouldn't order this 2,000 calorie cheeseburger. So it's not going to necessarily change consumers drastically who are already addicted, but I think can help people manage their time better. They're also eventually going to add app reminders. There's going to be a native app to Android that lets you set times for how long you want to use an app, or during certain times you don't want it to be enabled. So you can do things like that. And so Apple is mirroring a lot of those aspects. My hope is that since Android is copying a lot of Apple's new design choices for the Pixel 3, they'll add the wireless charging back in, because the Pixel 3, there's been some leaks recently that show there being a notch for the bigger Pixel 3 XL. So it's clear that they're definitely trying to make it where the phone is more of a tool that you can customize and help produce stuff. My question then is, how do you get the average user to use this stuff? Power users, sure, they'll use it. But there has to be some kind of onboarding process to really, or native setup where...
They should probably force people into it a little bit.
That's what I think, is you have to have some of these enabled by default, and you can change them or tweak them, or have Apple a tutorial mode.
I guarantee Apple will have some sort of workflow in the beginning of the upgrade that helps you set that up, because they do that to a point of annoyance with existing features. So it's like every time you upgrade the system, it's like you have a new phone, and I'm sorry, but I don't want a new phone every upgrade. I don't want to feel like oh, I got to enable this, I got to set that up. And I mean, like, when you, to be fair, it's like if it's a point upgrade, it's only the new stuff that's added, or something that may have changed, or something that they have to re-ask you about for whatever reason. So it's not a lot, but it's just like, just upgrade the phone. I want to turn it on, and it's upgraded, and nothing is different, and I don't know.
I think that's interesting, is the idea of how do you onboard people to this process or teach them this is good for them. I could see if they had some things enabled by default that people would get mad. It's like, well, why isn't this thing notifying me about new emails? So I think it's finding that balance between enabling stuff, but still letting people customize it.
Yeah, well, it's like turn it on, and then walk people through, like, this just got turned on. My problem is when Apple removes stuff. And then doesn't tell you, which they do constantly in macOS. Like, I mean, the thing, they removed the library folder being visible in your home folder for several years, and it's still like that.
Why? Just because they don't want people erasing shit, or
they probably got a lot of people who accidentally deleted it, thinking they didn't need it, because stereotypical Apple customer is not necessarily. I mean, like, and it's not to call anyone stupid. I've gotten in trouble for that before.
No, but people
and people, like, I'm an Apple user. I like it for the same reasons that people who don't like computers like it. It's just like, I want the computer to get out of my way so I can do what I want to do. And I also like that it's pretty. But if you're not good at computers, you're probably going to get more likely to get a Mac if you can afford it, because it's supposed to be easier. Whether or not it actually ends up being more easy or intuitive for you.
Supposed to being the operative word.
Yeah, that's the... I mean, and in practice, I do think that tends to be the case for most people. Most people who don't understand computers tend to do a better job with the Mac. I don't think Windows is all that hard for, some stuff, but it's like, it's like, I think the problems with Windows being unintuitive come in like 2 weeks later. Was with a Mac, it's just kind of a steady thing. So it's less of a, instead of the learning curve for Windows, just it's like a ramp up, I think, for those people. Whereas with a Mac, it's just flat, but it might not be, necessarily like the lowest point. But generally speaking, you get a lot of dumb stuff happening on Mac. I'm guessing they have some data from the Genius Bar that says people are throwing away their library, so we better hide it. And that makes sense, because Apple hides a lot of big files in there that you would want to get rid of. And if you don't know what you're doing, then you probably just delete the library folder because you don't understand why you need it and why it's in like multiple places. There are 3 library folders on a Mac, so if you have one user, if you have multiple users, you have more. But there's the system library and then the the library next to the system library. And it makes sense if you understand how the operating system is composed, but why do you need to know that? Most people don't need to know that. So it's I get why they hit it. I don't like that it took them 3 years. It might have been longer to add a checkbox so that you could get
really.
Yeah, so you could just turn it back on permanently.
See, I like giving people the options to do things.
Yeah, and that's how it should be. But you used to have to do a terminal command to do that, and now you have to do that to they have allow an app from an unregistered developer.
Sure.
You have to. The apps have to all be signed, and like this, I get that it's a security thing to make it an extra step to go and say allow apps from anywhere. But the problem I have is that in recent, I think it's in High Sierra, but it might have come in Sierra, that they turned off the ability to allow apps from anywhere. Like if it's not signed with Apple's security protocols.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if it doesn't have a certificate that's registered with them. Which means that I don't know if you can do it for free. You might be able to do it for free. But either way, it's like if you don't have that, the app will not open on a Mac unless you go into the terminal and add the option back to turn it on. And I ran into this yesterday again, and it's a constant thing. And with it happens rarely, but it happens enough. And what you can do, what they allow you to do is, if you try to open that up and then it says I can't open it, then you can go into security and click open anyway. Then that button will show up, but it doesn't let you set that permanently. Like you have to do it every time.
That's a pain in the ass.
And it should at least offer to open that window for you or give you like some information. You have
at least
to click
Windows
like 5 times.
Windows does that at least.
Yeah, make it require more input, maybe, but don't make it do it in a way where it's just inconvenient and you have to remember what to do every time. You have to open up another app just to do it. Like at least make it clear on how that's done.
Yeah, that would make sense. It's funny with Windows going towards Windows S, which is such bullshit. It's basically a hand-holding version of Windows that only lets you install apps that are on the Windows Store, or the Microsoft Store, I mean. And you can turn it off for free and get Windows Pro, but that comes default installed, and that annoys the hell out of me. So it's clear Windows is trying to do something similar with security that's very hand-holdy, and trying to make their stuff easier to use and fight the perception that PCs give you more viruses because dad or grandma are downloading the wrong things and installing malware.
I liked it better when tech wasn't an everybody thing. Not because I think everyone should have access to it if they want it, and I'm glad that people can connect with it, and I can have a conversation about technology with anyone now, and they're not like, ugh, I'm not interested in that, because they're all stuck with it. There's always something to relate to people with in regards to technology, so I think that's awesome. My problem is that it's too many people, and the quality has gone down significantly.
Sure.
And that, it's like I miss having a good product. I also miss being able to buy a product that doesn't cater to the lowest common denominator.
Yeah, that's nice.
And I say that like in areas where I'm the lowest common denominator, like maybe kickboxing or whatever. I'd have to think about what I'm like really bad at, and which is not to say I'm like great at everything. I'm not really great at anything. I'm good at a variety of things, but not great.
It's very humble.
Well, it's accurate. But I hope to be great at something someday. I mean, like I think I'll eventually get there. It's just going to take me a lot longer because I have too many interests. But with stuff that I don't like being bad at things.
That's fair. I don't think anyone really enjoys that.
If I identify something I'm bad at, I usually improve that. But kickboxing, anything that would involve like violence or simulated violence, Halo controls. Actually got better at that.
I think
I'm not bad at that anymore.
I think there's skills you can all improve at.
Yeah, well, that one took me a very long time, but it was Mario Odyssey that taught me how to use the 3D camera well, or well enough for me to do it. And so like I've been meaning to pick up Mass Effect again to just see if I can really control it properly, but I understand how to move those controls without having a terrible time now,
Yeah.
and I don't mind 3D games as much. So thank you, Mario Odyssey, for that, because nothing else could do it.
I'm glad that it came through for you.
Mm-hmm.
One thing also I forgot to mention was that Android is going to be adding in, instead of just a system-wide thing, they're going to be adding in with their family of apps like YouTube that are known culprits for being like the thing that sends you down the drive. And I think YouTube is just as guilty of screen addiction. I take it back, not just as, but it's definitely complicit in screen addiction with Facebook, because their goal is to serve you ads by showing you ads as you watch videos, and then serving up.
You pay to not have them.
Yeah, but you still have to pay, and that's at least they have that model. But still, that model is really complicated because they're trying to obviously compete with Spotify and the Apple Music and like the paid music subscriptions.
Well, and like Netflix is. I feel like Netflix is not really the best comparison, but a streaming video service. They're competing on that front too. I like YouTube Red. I think there are a lot of problems with YouTube, but I happily pay for no ads. Now, I actually don't mind the ads that I would get. It's the problem that they would sometimes be like 3 minutes long, and they would be the same.
Yeah,
I already saw it.
They've shown me the fucking Wells Fargo one, which is a huge just like chance to like make up for the awful shit they did.
Wells Fargo, as far as I'm concerned, will never. I didn't like them before.
Yeah.
I left Wells Fargo when I was a teenager because they were so bad,
and
so they will never get. They will never.
Have you
change
seen?
my opinion.
Have you seen their ad?
I feel like
it's so stupid.
I feel like it's. I feel like it played next to that stupid Facebook ad that's basically trying to do the same
Facebook,
thing.
Uber, and Wells Fargo are all trying to like go on apology tours to like show we fucked up, but you know what? We're better now.
Yeah, how about
because we got caught.
How about instead of spending all that advertising money to apologize, just why don't you donate it to a cause and let the PR of that apologize for you? Do something good with that money. To me, they're like, we fucked up, so we're gonna spend a shit ton of money making a stupid condescending commercial that you're gonna have to watch.
Yeah.
Like, no, that's not that. I mean, I don't know what would work for someone else. I'm not. It would take a lot to get me back on Facebook. I mean, if Wells Fargo, Uber, I'm actually giving a chance because it was really I think their CEO, and this new CEO seems awesome, or is really good at lying about being awesome. I don't know. I mean, like, I don't really know him, so I say that to be fair to the possibilities. But I want him to be as good as he sounds. And it seems like, aside from that, the autonomous vehicle incident that they had, which it could have happened to anybody. Yeah,
it was only a matter of time before that would happen.
Also, he came in, after that had been developed, and they've been developing that for a long time. So it's, I don't know. I don't know. Yeah. It's possible that he's screwed up, but if this happens next year, if some like crazy shit happens,
he hasn't been caught yelling at or harassing people or screaming at drivers.
He at least knows how to do the CEO job well.
Yeah. He hasn't shit the bed yet.
Yeah, so I'm not, and I haven't heard really terrible things coming out of Uber. At least people haven't gotten kidnapped and raped and whatever
yet
else.
In a while.
I haven't heard. I mean, to be fair to Kalanick too, I didn't hear a whole lot of that happening in the last year he was around. So they probably figured that's bad for business.
Yeah, we should probably stop that happening. So,
but that's anyway, them, I'm willing to give them a chance because I feel like they actually are trying and being decent, whereas Facebook, it just feels like pandering. And Wells Fargo, there's with Facebook, I feel like Facebook probably thought everything was fine and they were on top of the world, and then they made a huge mistake and they tried to hide it because they thought they could fix it. It seemed like they screwed up and they did a bad job of managing that. But with Wells Fargo, it was malicious deliberately.
Yes.
There's no other explanation.
I think that's a fair. I don't think Facebook is evil. I just think they have grown so big way too fast and don't know how to properly manage their entire division. And Zuckerberg couldn't even answer what they really were accurately at the hearings. They've become so big.
Or chose not to.
Well, I think even then, they have a hard time classifying what they do because they're in all the pockets. I think.
I mean, it reminds me of my uncle when he was there's. For those who remember the Web 1.0 first may remember my uncle, Jeff, who started a company called Razorfish. And they were a web services company. They built websites and a bunch of other things. They did a lot of things in the digital media realm. And he had a very hard time explaining what the company was to people. And he would say words that, nowadays people would be like, oh yeah, I know what that is. But when he said it then, everyone was like, yeah, but what do you do? And he had this 60 Minutes interview where they kind of attacked him. I was actually there when that was filmed, and I did not know what was going on.
How old are you?
I think I was like 13 or something. It was, or I was there for like a piece of it. I don't know. I remember he was very upset, and I didn't. And there's some other stuff that I remember that I may be mixing with that experience, and I shouldn't say, but because that was a private conversation. There was a very weird conversation that is totally not as bad as I'm probably making it sound. That happened afterwards. That was just kind of funny because it was so like not related to what had just happened. And I really, I didn't know what was going on at the time. I might have been like, maybe I was 14. I don't know. So it was one of those.
It sounds fun.
But it was, I loved going out there because I got to use all these like, I mean, we didn't have nice computers at home and stuff. And he had like a T1 and that was fast at the time.
Oh yeah.
And so it was just I got to do internet stuff, and I would literally just sit at the machine and do work there. They would give me stuff that they made, and I would make new stuff out of it.
Nice.
So that I learned a lot there, and that was awesome. And actually, I almost forgot about this, but getting back to the WWDC.
Yeah, I was gonna say, yeah. Speaking of family.
Yeah. So if you follow me on Twitter, you may have heard this already. But my grandmother, my bubby, because she's a Yiddish Jew, but I said grandmother in the tweet to be clear, and then I was like, oh well, would she like that? I don't know. I never know what I feel like. Then if I say bubby, then I have to explain it to people. So I figured I'd make it easier. But anyway, bubby, she was in the developer video on the
How did that
WWDC.
happen?
Well, so my Aunt Debbie sends me a text like 3 or 4 weeks ago saying, hey, I'm coming to Los Angeles. Do you want to go get dumplings at Din Tai Fung? Because I had tried to convince her to go with me a long time ago when Eric and I had this competition of how many people we could get to go to the dumpling place, and we have a whole point system. I actually still have the scoreboard somewhere, and we had a whole point system. We stopped when I was in the lead. So I guess I won. But we realized that it was like the competition was making the experience terrible after a while because it was so stressful. We were trying so hard to get the points that we were like, we got to stop. But I was trying to get my aunt to go because one, she was in the highest point class because she was out of town and unlikely to go. So the harder they were, the more points you would get.
Yeah.
And she was new. But also because she really appreciates really good food. Her kids love it. I mean, it wasn't all about me and winning. It was like, I wouldn't ask people if I thought they would hate it.
Mm-hmm.
So it was, and not that anyone hates Din Tai Fung. It's amazing. So there's, I couldn't get her to go because she didn't want to drive all the way out to Pasadena from the west side, which I totally understand.
That's a long drive.
She's fine with us making it, but but so she's like, oh, we're going to be in Pasadena. Me and Bubby, do you want to go to Din Tai Fung? And I was like, yeah. And then I realized that was a ploy to just get me to show up because they were never going to make that trip. And I mean, they were out there and it was close. And she's like, as soon as I said that, she's like, well, as long as it's 15 minutes or less away. I'm like, good thing it is. But then they wouldn't take a reservation, which you don't need on a Tuesday. So anyway, there's this whole thing, and then her son was coming for obvious reasons, and they got into a conversation about like, oh, well, he didn't want to drive all the way out here because she sent the dinner for 7:30 and it's going to take him 45 minutes to get there from work, and he gets out of work at 7:30. Anyway, it all worked out and it's not that important, but there was like this whole mess of stuff, and I got like sucked into this whole thing because not because I wanted to go to Din Tai Fung, but because I was like, oh, someone actually remembered something that I cared about and thought about it enough to say like, oh, I remember this and I know that's important to you, and I'm in town, and so I would like to see you, and let's my family isn't like that.
Yeah.
Generally, they don't do those sorts of things. And so I thought that was happening here, and it was not. But and so I was a little upset about that, but whatever. I go to the dinner, and I find out that they're there because of Apple. And
now, is your grandma like a tech enthusiast, or does she know anything about technology? Nope.
No, you've not seen the video, I'm assuming.
I've not.
Yeah, she pretty much puts that out there. The first thing is her saying that she does not know what an app is, basically.
How do they find her?
Well, my uncle Jeff, who went through Razorfish and had this, we were talking about that 60 Minutes interview, but what was where did this all begin again?
Your grandma.
No. Back with you were saying something about an interview, I think, and that reminded me about Jeff's interview.
Oh, but you didn't finish telling about your grandma. You were
I know, but there's a connection here, and I'm probably going to forget what it is by the time we get it. But you were it was people not being able to explain what you do.
Oh, yes.
You can explain that, but what we were talking about.
Yeah, not being able to explain what you do. I had ended my thought, so I had nothing else to say.
No, in regards to that, where did that begin?
I don't remember.
I don't either. Okay, well, I'm sure everyone's finding this very interesting, so I'll give it up. But anyway, Jeff, he had Razorfish, and then he went through a series of other ventures that weren't quite right for him for various reasons. And then found out that he had type 1.5 diabetes. And
how do you have half a diabetes?
Well, that's just kind of what they call it, because it's not it looks like type 2, but it's type 1.
Okay. Essentially,
and so they call it type 1.5 because it's not, you didn't cause it for yourself. It was a genetic problem that occurred.
And you exacerbated it, but you didn't cause it yourself. Is that kind of where it is?
I don't know. I mean, he definitely ate a lot of flavorful food in his days, so it's entirely possible he exacerbated it.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, like, he also exercised quite a bit. He's not like my dad, where he's like a crazy 3 hours a day and super intense exercise kind of guy. But I mean, he runs a decent amount. I think he's run a marathon now. I mean, were you on the show when we had him on?
No,
I think that was before you got here. Yeah. He has a company called One Drop now, which is like he was, when he got diabetes, he was like, this isn't stylish enough for me. So he made One Drop, which is like a cool glucometer, and it's smart, and it's, I was being a little silly there, but it's actually a really great product. And I'm not just saying that because he's my uncle. I've criticized him plenty. If you know my life, so I'm not. It's not a biased thing. It's actually very nice, and it's and it helps you kind of like track. It keeps track and provides insights into your blood sugar levels, and helps you avoid glucose events. I think that's what they're called, where your blood sugar would spike and you might pass out or whatever. And so people, if they have an event eating something at a restaurant that seemed okay but then wasn't, then they report that glucose event to the app, and then it will register on kind of the whole group around people, so they'll know, like, oh, this is not good for a diabetic at this restaurant for some reason. So it can help actually prevent injury. I don't know if you can die from that, but whatever level of extreme problem you would have from a glucose event, it's designed to help you avoid those. And I'm sure there are a lot of other features, like I'm remembering stuff from when he started this years ago.
Yeah, I just looked it up. It's still being updated.
What do you mean?
The app on Android.
Oh yeah, no, they've been at this for a while. They're still going strong, and Apple wanted to highlight them. They were one of like 20 people they selected as maybe we'll put them in a highlight video and have them present at WWDC. And so they wanted the family to come out there. They were generally asking for like brother, sister, husband, wife, children. That was the thing. And then Jeff said, "No, you want my mom," which is brilliant.
Mm-hmm.
If you know the family and you know her. I mean, you can just know her. I mean, she, like, it is not surprising to me at all that Apple put her on the thumbnail, and she's kind of like the foundation of the video. Everyone else is like she starts off each segment of the video and ends it.
Yeah.
Because she's funny.
Yeah.
I don't have any idea at all how to create an app. I don't understand any of it.
Thank you.
Ask me another question.
It's and also what he created is of great public benefit too.
Yeah. No, it sounds like it.
So I mean, there's some people in there who are making games, and clearly, no
Yeah.
shit against game developers. Tommy and I are both working on game stuff ourselves, so it's nothing wrong with that. But I mean, like when you have generally when you're highlighting great work developers have done, you might highlight the art. But when someone's like saving lives with their product, it's kind of like it sounds better.
Yeah,
and in some ways is better. Not to downplay my own interest, but so it worked very well in that regard. But I was searching for like a quick recap of the WWDC because I just don't care enough to go through it, and I saw these articles on it, and for some reason no one did it this year. But I'm searching for like WWDC recap, and then I see my Bubby's face on a thumbnail. And
did you know she's gonna be in it?
I didn't know. I figured there's a pretty good chance she would because she's funny.
Mm-hmm.
And you're touching the microphone. I'm trying to bypass you to stop touching the cable.
Sorry. Oh, sorry.
No, it's okay. I think that tends to pick up on the recording.
Oh, sorry, recording.
Yeah, because they're not separate. I think like all the microphones pick up. They're downplayed, but if you touch them, they're not.
Sorry, yes, I apologize.
So yeah, if anyone heard that, that's what that was.
There's me caressing the mic.
And if you didn't hear it, and I'm overly paranoid, please email me and tell me that, so I don't bug people constantly about that. And because I'm always like, don't do it, and people just either think I'm not talking to them or. But I'm trying to do it silently so I don't have to interrupt the podcast, but it never works out. Anyway, yeah, I didn't know she was going to be in there. I thought there's a pretty decent chance, but I was definitely not expecting that when I was searching, because I had forgotten about it that day. Even like I had forgotten that was a possibility, and I had meant to ask a couple of times, like, hey, do you know if she got selected? And like life got busy, I forgot, and I figured, oh well, and I'll find out when it happens probably if I don't get around to it. So whatever. And then there she was on the thumbnail of Apple's thing. So I tweeted that out because I was like, that's pretty crazy. And it's really wonderful that, like, I love that this is what Jeff decided to do.
No, it sounds like a clever way to bring people up to speed with how to use it, and that it's for all users.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so it's it was cool to see that. I hope it's good for the business. I mean, it really is a good thing. I would like it if they were able to get insurance to start covering it, because that was the initial...
That'd be the nicest thing, is having insurance cover high-tech products, because that can reduce and capture events better than any low-level piece of tech can.
I don't think like glucometers are covered in general though.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah, it kind of is.
If that's true, that's insane.
Yeah, I mean, it should be like for type. I think it probably should be covered for type 2, because there are plenty of things that it's like a lot of people will get an STD.
Yeah.
By making a decision to have sex, and maybe they're not as informed as they could be or whatever. So like, I don't want to blame anyone for getting type 2 diabetes necessarily. Like, if someone tells you for 10 years you're going to get type 2 diabetes if you don't change, and then you don't change, then that person, I'm not going to feel as bad if they have to pay a little extra for their glucometer supplies. But and for the most part, I think people should be covered for whatever conditions they have. Maybe less so if they're refusing to take care of themselves when things are dire, but whatever. I don't think we need to figure out.
It looks like insurance does cover if it's prescribed by a doctor.
Okay, well that's good. So that's an improvement on the terrible insurance. I just assume the worst about insurance.
Yeah, I think that's a fair assumption.
Yeah, but it wasn't fair in this case, and so I should be careful. At least when I'm being recorded. not because I want to. I'm sure I'm wrong plenty of the time.
And I'm sure there are exceptions that I'm sure they try to fuck people over, because bottom line, insurance does not like spending money unless they have to.
Yeah, I mean, like I got signed up with Oscar this year because I wanted something better than Blue Shield, and I had talked to them a couple years ago. And
how is Oscar?
Terrible. That's why I'm bringing it up. It is worse than Blue Shield. They basically...
But their advertising campaign is so clean and nice.
Because that's all they do is advertise and hire people to funnel you over to their partners. It's like they don't do anything themselves. Every time I ask a question, I get funneled into... It's like, oh, you have to talk to CVS Caremark about that. And I'm like, they're not my pharmacy. Well, they're our pharmacy partner, and they make all our decisions.
That's a pain in the ass.
I'm like, no, you should make your decisions. I signed up with you. I didn't sign up with CVS.
It's just like AIS or these, like, that's an insurance company that then is a third party for other insurance companies. You call them like, oh, we'll call someone else.
Yeah. I'm trying to take less medicine. I'm trying to get off drugs, and they are making it very difficult.
That sounds painful and frustrating, and I'm sorry you're going through that.
Thank you. I am too. I don't want to be on this medication anymore. I did the research and figured out a way to get off of it and still solve my problem without having to have stupid scheduled medicine.
It makes me sad I can't trust a shiny and pretty ad campaign. Yeah.
I mean, that's the problem with a lot of tech stuff nowadays is, bless you, is I blame Twitter because of Bootstrap. Because they're responsible for all these nice looking websites, and then the ad campaigns just basically take like the header and part of the bottom web page, and that's their billboard. I mean, if you look at Oscar, that is what it is.
Pretty much.
And Soylent's very similar. Not that I have as much of an issue with Soylent, although maybe I should have more issues with Soylent because there are. I think it's just someone invented something different, and we're finding out why it might be a problem in some cases. So growing pains. But
I think the problem is when you do something is that drastic like that on the market, and don't your test is your consumer base.
Yeah,
it's dangerous.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm very positive about it because it helped me in a lot of ways. But it seems like there's some issues with gut flora or whatever. I mean, you brought this up before, so you know more about that than me.
Yeah,
but it sounds like it's not maybe the healthiest thing in the world. But it works well in a pinch. I like not having to eat sometimes, and so I like to utilize it.
I think that's why they also invested in an ad campaign that's like, it's not a total meal replacement. It's just for, when you're on the rush, on the go.
Yeah. But we should probably wrap up. I want to talk about one more thing real quick on the smartphone addiction front, because the main criticism that came from Apple, or came at Apple after all of this, was that they have this new platform to help you manage your distractions and whatnot, but it's not open. The APIs are not open to let other people contribute. And this is typical of Apple, that they generally create a technology or some sort of framework for for features on the phone, and they it's like when NFC was added to the iPhone, no one was allowed to use it at first, and I think that took 2 years, and now they're finally like letting people actually develop for NFC right now on the iPhone, which I like great, because there are so many. If I could just use that with my camera. Like if you're trying to sync pictures over with a camera, it's a lot easier to do on an Android phone because you just tap it and it connects. With an iPhone, you can't do any of that. You have to go through that whole Wi-Fi network crap, and because these camera companies are not really very good at putting an interface in that's intuitive and easy to select, you're not dealing with a touch screen. You're dealing with buttons, and you can't really type on the thing. It's clunky, and it kind of has to be to some degree. NFC solves that problem. Sony figured that out years ago.
Yeah.
Can't do it with an iPhone though. So it's normal for Apple to do that. I think they lock it down to some degree because they kind of want to see how things go with it before they open it up to everybody else, and that's fair. But at the same time, I mean, like if I were in their shoes, I would say, like, we're doing this. We want to see what you can come up with too. Especially because it's like free R&D for them if they want to ever steal that feature, because they can do that. I mean, it's not. And like Steve Jobs always said when asked about Dropbox that it's a really great feature. It's not a company. Clearly, Dropbox changed that, but and I disagreed with that always. I mean, like it's a Dropbox as a platform. It was always going to be a platform, and I think it was very short-sighted, or like just deliberately wrong of him to say that. Not wrong as in ethically, but wrong as in like it's incorrect and he knew it, and he was just trying to make people say like, oh yeah, Dropbox is stupid. And but but I mean, like iCloud Drive, it's Apple's Dropbox. He didn't quite get it to even close to anything that resembled Dropbox during his lifetime. And I don't know why Apple took so long with it.
I mean,
and you
it's not
still
a
can't get
complicated-
share links for files, which is weird.
It's not a complicated idea. The idea is that you will need to have a complicated backend that's reliable and a simple interface on the front.
Yeah, and the silly thing is that they had that already, and it just took a long time to implement it. And the thing I don't understand though is why they don't have like a share link option. I think that's coming in the next iteration. I remember reading. I didn't see anything announced about that, but that I think Apple had actually said that that's forthcoming at some point, in like a quarterly earnings call or something. But it's like you really can't use iCloud Drive in the same way you'd use Dropbox, and Dropbox has a variety of other features which are, what they are. I mean, they're cool, but they're I think like a lot of a lot of the value add to Dropbox is kind of weird. And also like you're using Dropbox to sync files on your desktop, but you have to go online to use any of like their Dropbox paper. It's really great. Dropbox Showcase. I sent one of those to you yesterday.
I have that pulled up to look at today.
I quite like those features because they're a really nice way of creating presentable documents. I think they're a little limited in what you can do with them, but it's also like you should have a desktop app for that because you are a desktop platform. You should have a smartphone app. Maybe they do. I don't know. I don't really use my phone for anything, but I feel like a lot of people like to use their phone for stuff, so they should probably have that.
They should.
I think, granted, these features are new, so maybe that will come, but it's a situation where like I would really like to be, even if it's an online thing, I'd like to be able to open an app, because with Dropbox, it's two-factor authentication, getting into it each time, and then I got to go find where the showcase thing is. It's like it's too many clicks to get to the Tootsie Roll center of the Tootsie Pop. So at that point, like a lot of the time, like unless I have a explicit use for it, it's not something I'm gonna think to do regularly. I'll just pick something else that I have quicker access to. So I think for their sake, at least, they should make it easier to get to.
I would think so. But
maybe they think everyone's just living in Dropbox on their web browser for some reason, and that, I don't know. Anyway, I wanted to ask if Android is doing anything to allow. I mean, I guess they are in a sense, because you can kind of, developers have a lot more freedom on Android. But is that a problem on Android at all, that people can't build on top of these features?
No, that's one thing that's helpful about Android is they're pretty open with their APIs.
I guess they kind of have to be if it's open source.
Yeah, I mean, it's not Android. It's not Android. Part of it is open source. Yeah. Other parts are not. But they do try to everything that I've ever complained about them ever opening, like their Pulse Light for the LED is open source now, so people can directly tie into that. Mm-hmm. Password management now has an API. So there are ways around different things that people found, and then Android is just adding ways to make it more accessible. The fingerprint scanner has an API, so it's possible to use it, which I like. Yeah. So they tend to maybe not make it as robust as it should be, but they still let stuff be open, which I think is important.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that's the important thing, because it's the first iteration isn't ever going to be as robust as it can be. They're saying like, these are our best ideas. We're putting the energy into these first. We want to see how this goes, and then we're going to add to it as we go. Mm-hmm. And I think Apple's doing the same sort of thing. The problem is not letting other people contribute in their case. And there are people who've been working. This is the main criticism, because there are people who have been working on these kinds of features for a long time already to try to help people with services that I just really wasn't all that aware of.
Well, and one thing Android got criticized for was they were going to kill a few things that potentially could be abused by apps that are like full app screen reading stuff that have access to certain notifications. Mm-hmm. But those things were used, like LastPass used it, and certain things use that to control being able to enter passwords in fields and different things like that. Mm-hmm. And so they were going to kill that, but then there was a huge blowback in the community, and they ended up realizing that there were not enough APIs to control different aspects of the operating system that did control accessibility options, that they realized it would be better to leave it as is and find ways to eventually adjust and remove it once those things have been addressed.
Are we talking about Android still?
Yes.
Okay, because Apple just opened up the passwords API.
Yeah, so passwords have been open for a while. They were open in Oreo, in the 2 Android versions ago.
Yeah, and there's been a workaround for LastPass users and other password thing users.
Or I guess one version ago. But yeah.
Like you can go into the share menu on your iPhone and enter it that way. I mean, that's how you have to do it if you're not using iCloud. But iCloud suddenly becomes much more convenient to use instead of your password manager of choice when it's just like right there, ready to go.
Yeah.
So it's tempting to want to use that or allow Apple to save your passwords. So now they're letting it, just draw from anything. There's a central database that they can, sync the data into or whatever on the phone. And they've added one of the things that was good that Apple added, I think, was that there's a lot more control over security features like disabling USB access on your phone after an hour, since that's the easiest way to hack the phones these days. And it's like you never know when you might be in a situation. I think most of us probably will never be in one, but you never know if like you get pulled over by the police and then they want your phone and they want to get into your phone and you have the right to not unlock it, but if they have a tool to open it up themselves through a USB thing, then that's a problem.
Yeah.
But they're not going to get it back to that USB thing within an hour, most likely, unless it's sitting in the car, which I think it has to be plugged in to something. And powered. I don't know. I really don't know. But it looks like a Mac Mini with a cord sticking out of it when I saw a picture. But anyway, yeah, I think this was one situation. Like I would rather Apple open things up right away, and it was maybe a little bit more careful who they invite in, and I think that would be really important here. That should have been what happened here with this addiction stuff.
Yeah, I agree.
But like it should have been what happened in the past with a lot of things. Those are easier to let go for the reasons we talked about already. But with this, it's like this is it's a really big problem for people, and I feel like whatever you can do to make that better, you should be doing.
I agree.
But maybe if they get enough people telling them that.
I think hopefully companies listen. Apple is not one. I don't know if they actually listen to customers, but Google
they do more now that Tim Cook's doing it. Like they actually do seem to give a shit.
Because Steve Jobs did not give a fuck.
Yeah, and I mean they would respond to stuff sometimes from customers more towards the end of his, I guess, activity there. And
well, yeah.
Yeah, well, because there was like that last year where he wasn't really doing anything for good reason. But I mean, like he started listening a little bit more. I mean, like even in 2007, people complained so much about the iPhone getting a price cut after a month.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, as someone who overpaid for it, I didn't really care. I was happy I got a gift card, but I'm like, well, that's what happens. That's what happens sometimes.
Yeah.
You wanted it first, like that. Like if you're signing
paying,
up for an Apple product, like I knew what I was doing.
You're paying to be an early adopter. Like, yeah, there are risks, and people have to acknowledge that.
Yeah, I mean, I made my decision to go in on day 3 and buy it when there would be no line, and they'd have plenty of them because it was a $600 phone. And I'm like, no one's going to buy a $600. They're going to make more of these than they need.
Yeah,
they're absolutely going to, and that's what happened. And I was like, I literally walked across the street to the mall, walked into the Apple store, and said, "I'd like an iPhone, please." And they said, "Here you go. This will be a lot of money."
Of waiting in a line.
Yeah. I hate lines. The only time I waited in a line was for the second iPhone because my first one had a broken screen, and at that point, people actually were going to buy them out.
Yeah.
So because they were subsidized and people knew what was going on there, and so I was like, I'm like, okay, I need to wait in this line. I waited in line in New York where I happened to be that year, and it was terrible.
I'd say so.
It was like 4 or 5 hours. I brought video games, and it could have been worse. But like lines, not a thing that there's very little I'll wait in a line for. The only time you'll catch me in a line for the most part is if I'm doing it to keep someone else company or doing it for another human being.
A theme park, I think, is the only time I enjoy lines.
Oh, I don't enjoy that.
And by enjoy, I don't mean enjoy. I mean I'll suffer through them.
I'll suffer through them because someone else wanted to.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I pretty much would never. I can't think of a time where I've said, "Let's go to a theme park." I want to do that.
Yeah.
I'm willing to go to a theme park.
When I was at Disney and got free admission, I was willing to. But
yeah, if it were like $10 or something or free,
yeah,
I might be a little bit more.
It
eager.
Subsidizes that pain.
Yeah, that's just the problem. Is like you're at the theme park all day, And most of it isn't aligned.
It's an investment. Yeah, it is. Unless
you're paying all that money.
Yeah, exactly. So I didn't mind the free aspect.
Yeah, but anyway, that's that. I don't know. I don't think we actually solved anything today, other than just talked about the problems.
I don't think we can solve it. I think they're trying to, and we'll see if it works. We'll see if it works.
Yeah, but I like when we can at least make a suggestion of something to do if you're experiencing problem X. But I think the good news is that these companies, for whatever their motivation is, which may or may not be pure, they're trying to keep people less addicted to their phones. Apple could be doing a better job than they are. Google seems to be doing all right, despite the fact that Apple is supposedly better positioned to care about privacy than Google. At least based on what they say. I mean, it's a fair argument, but it just doesn't seem to actually be reality when push comes to shove. Like, Google is quite good at securing data and not putting people in those situations that Facebook does.
True.
Maybe not as good as Apple, but that's because that isn't a revenue stream for Apple.
Yes.
So there's, it is what it is so far. It's good that we're moving in this direction, that companies are paying attention to this problem. I think it's just important that we make it clear that this is necessary and important, because I don't think enough people are doing that. I think most people are complacent with the addiction.
I think so.
It's like tech people who are mad.
It creeps its way in, and I have friends that are addicted, and it drives me nuts, and there's nothing I can say or do that will change that.
Yeah, there's some people that are just, I feel like, have been lost in their phones. And when I see it made fun of on the internet, or not the internet, on like TV shows or whatever, I feel kind of frustrated with it, because it's like, okay, well, it's not that bad, but it is. It is for a lot of people I don't know. It is. But for me, like, I feel a minor addiction, but I'm also not like face first in my phone constantly, not interacting with other people. Yeah. It's one of the, like I put it away. I've honestly never really liked the phone that much. I find it inefficient. And so it's fine for some stuff, and it's really useful for some things. But
no, I agree. It's a useful tool, and I am fortunately more reliant on it because of the way I do my job and the business stuff I have. But yeah, it stresses me out, and I wish I could put it away for periods of time. Yeah. And I do. I managed to find downtime when I can respond to everything and give it away for a few hours, but it's nice.
Yeah. I mean, the bigger problem for me is that I turn off my notifications. I turn off pretty much everything when I need to focus, and then I come back regularly to messages of people being pissed at me for not responding.
Yeah, that's frustrating. So I get that.
And usually it's not warranted. Like, usually it's, when people are doing it, it's ridiculous. But it like, the rest of society needs to stop.
Yes, snaps to that.
Hassling me about it, at least, or hassling other people about it. Like, if you want to be addicted to your phone, that is your choice, but don't expect me to do that for you too.
Snaps?
Yeah,
agreement.
Oh, like,
yep.
That thing. Yep. Okay. I don't know things. All right, let's shut up.
Okay.
We'll talk to you next week, guys. Thanks for, and I feel like I'm being sexist now. Guys, girls, ladies,
as people have called, that's a microaggression, Adam. How dare you?
Well, but now I'm leaving out transgender people.
Thanks, people.
Thanks for listening, everyone.
There we go.
Whether you're a person, a dog, a space entity, we're happy to have you here. If you have any questions,
especially space dogs.
Yes, especially. If you have any questions, hopefully the audio is still we're not having those problems again. I mean, we shouldn't be, because, I didn't mean pressing the mic. I meant Whitson dropping out.
Oh, yes.
But hopefully that's all been better. It should be. But, if there are any issues, let us know. If whatever my question was earlier, if you have an answer for that, let me know. Or if you have any questions that you'd like help with, problems to solve, we do enjoy doing that. We've been getting more of those, but I keep forgetting to ask regularly. But go to awkwardhuman.com/supercharged. Send us a question if you want us to solve a tech problem, because those are fun to do. So yeah, that's it. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Supercharged. If you'd like to send in a comment or a question, you can do so on awkward.email. You just go on your web browser to awkward.email. It's actually a website. And you can call or text 509-AWKWARD instead, if you'd like to just skip all of that and do it from your phone. Also, if you'd like to check out some of our other shows, we've got a lot of great shows now, and we're having more every day, or, eventually. You can do that on awkwardhuman.com/podcast. Go check it out. We've got a lot of good stuff, and we hope that you'll be listening every week. Thanks.